also ask that we silence cell phones. I don't know what I did with mine.
Recording in progress.
Shall we rise for the pledge this morning? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, for liberty and justice for all. Good morning, everyone. We have, as we posted, we're looking at the intersection of 140 and Main Street. That's becoming an issue. It's something that we as a board have, I know I've been here for a while and have requested and have had many people here, the governor, the different senators and whatever at different times to look at the intersection. And we have some information, and we have people from the state. Jason A.
Hans Weber.
Good morning, gentlemen. And we're going to turn the meeting over to you. You're going to give us...
Absolutely. Well, we certainly appreciate the opportunity to be here. So again, my name is Jason A. I'm the New Hampshire DOT project manager for the Belmont 43352 project, which is what the department has named this project for New Hampshire 140, Main Street, Depot Street. I also have Trent Zanes in the back of the room and Dan Primo. Dan is the group leader, so he is sort of responsible for all the technical content that we put together, and Trent was kind of the initiator of many of the concepts that you see here. And then as Hans has grown into his new role, he's sort of taken over as the lead project engineer. So that's a little bit about who we are today. We also have an individual, Dylan, who's responsible for all the environmental permitting. So essentially where we are today is we have initiated the data collection for the intersection project. We've done a number of concepts. We met with the town. It's been almost 2 years now, unfortunately, but we have been working on it. We've initiated a lot of the data collection, which involves the base mapping and the survey. So we had crews that came to the intersection and picked up all the features so that you could have the plans in front of you today. We also have our environmental folks have gone out and done the wetland delineations. We've understood where the parks are, sensitive resources, with the exception of our cultural resource program has not completed all of the investigations. So any of the properties that might have some type of historic significance, we still have to do that, and that's a major factor in the NEPA decision. And that the NEPA is the National Environmental Policy Act, and that's in order for us to qualify for federal funding. We need to make sure that we investigate all of the sensitive resources, whether they're environmental, cultural. We also have to kind of understand what the concepts are and what other resources or what other impacts that we might have. And that all goes into our NEPA document. We pass that on to our Concord Division of Federal Highway, and they would sort of approve the funding so that we can move forward to final and sign. So a quick recap of where the project was. And the project entered the 10-year plan, which is kind of, for all intents and purposes, that's my job, is to deliver the 10-year plan program. I'm not responsible for any of the other resurfacing or any type of general maintenance type projects that we put together. But we're, as PMs and highway design staff, we're responsible for delivering the 10-year plan program. And this project entered in 2017. So what that means is, generally when it enters a 10-year plan program, construction's not available to the end of that current cycle. So 2017 to 2026, the project was envisioned to be in that 26 time frame. So we're kind of getting close to that end of the construction. And I think we've got a couple solutions here that we could certainly meet that timeline, and then depending on what the board thinks. So we entered in 2017. Engineering really didn't become available to 2019, 2020, I believe. That was kind of right at the end of the pandemic. Unfortunately, it kind of set us back. We've certainly been struggling with resources since then. However, you have a number of concepts. So when I took over as a PM, or when I entered this role, certain projects a blank sheet meeting. Like, we are not experts on the intersection. Some of us may live in the community at the department, but certainly I'm not. So having that feedback from the board is really important for us to be able to kind of get a sense of, why did the community put the program, put the project into the 10-year plan program. Sorry. And so that's kind of the first step. So. Excuse me. What you have in front of you has got a number of concepts. One that is labeled TYP is a 10-year plan concept. That was entered into the program as the concept that determined the budget, which we're kind of at least working towards. That construction budget was about $450,000 for safety and intersection improvements, with right-of-way budget of about $30,000. So the concept, for those that don't have a plan, essentially a right turn lane as you're heading westbound on New Hampshire 40 and taking a right onto Depot Street and continuing towards Tilton. And that's where that budget was established. I'm pretty sure I don't know all of the history for the project, but I know that there have been 140 bypass concepts. I know that there was some other thoughts matriculated through the department as they were trying to refine what that would be. I know that the 140 bypass was abandoned, and then Lakes Region Planning Commission brought forward another study and essentially looked at intermediate, short-term, intermediate, and long-term solutions for the intersection, which I think is where this concept, this 10-year plan concept you have in front of you, kind of came forward. So again, that is the basis for the construction budget and right-of-way budget that we currently have in the 10-year plan. We've done a fairly good job of keeping pace with inflation, so that we didn't lose any money as we've gone through the years. However, $450,000 in today's dollars doesn't really get you all that much, as I'm sure you're well aware with your own budgets.
I paint the lines.
And so then I'll direct your attention to kind of the roundabout concept. It doesn't have a lot of color on it. It would be the second graphic. That was out of our meeting back in 21 with the town. The planner had sort of proposed, potential solution for really what the town might envision for that. And what we took out of the meeting was the department would take this concept, that roundabout concept, and kind of put some engineering. It was really just a picture and brainstorming that the planner at the time had put forward. Obviously, there was some immediate impacts that we can visually see right away on the graphic, but we wanted to get a sense of really what from an engineering perspective, that roundabout concept could do. And if it was just the immediate parcels adjacent to the intersection, or it was a much bigger project than what we have. And I think the team did a really great job of kind of taking that and also providing some other options for us to consider. And before I go too much further, really my goal out of this meeting from you is the steps in the project development process for us are the planning, which is the data collection, which we've done, and some initial planning, and then we need to start meeting with the public. We wanted to give kind of the boards, you're the eyes and ears, your elected officials for the community. This is a great barometer for us to kind of get a handle on what the town and the community might want to see before we go out, and we look for a preferred alternative that we can solidify our federal funding and then advance in final design and put a construction contract out. We'd like to do that this summer. Honestly, I'd love to be able to have a meeting towards the end of the summer, depending on what we hear today, and really plan. Like I said before, I think we've got a reasonable and prudent concept that could meet the construction schedule. And I would like Hans to kind of go through the concepts and explain our thought process and how we kind of got to what we would like to see from the department's perspective that meets the scope, the budget. But that's why we're here today, is really to get your input, get a sense on how we steer the project in the direction. Anything much larger is going to be a different discussion that we probably want to continue. If we came out with a roundabout concept as that's the only thing that the town wanted to see, we want to make sure that we adjust
Thank you, Jason. So Jason already told you, you guys have the color graphics in front of you. There's also the matrix, that table that goes along with it. So as we step through each of the alternatives, feel free to, I guess, kind of review the information that's there. I probably won't go line by line, but if you have any questions along the way or at the end, we're here to answer those. Jason mentioned that there was a New Hampshire 140 corridor study that occurred about a decade ago at this rate. Out of that, they did come up with some preliminary recommendations for what could be done at this intersection. We've reviewed that literature as well as done our own data collection and review of the intersection. And I think we are all probably pretty familiar, maybe too familiar, with some of the issues that are experienced out there today. There is a bit of a crash history at this location. We had it as 28 crashes over a 10-year period. A lot of the crashes do seem to be related to the Depot Street stop condition, where people don't have great sight distance as they come up to the stop bar and they're looking right and left on Main Street or 140 North. They're struggling maybe to see where vehicles are approaching in an uncontrolled through movement. We also know that right-of-way is a little bit constrained. Belmont is an older town. It's been around for a long time. You see some of those storefronts and residences pretty close to the roadway. But there are sidewalks out there. We want to try and perpetuate those sort of pedestrian-friendly accommodations that we see there today. I guess one other last thing I'd say about the existing condition, also pertaining to the Depot Street approach, would be the presence of the Tioga River, or Tioga River?
Tioga.
Tioga, perfect. There's a bridge crossing there that's currently not part of the scope, but shortly after you cross over that bridge, you take a pretty quick upgrade. We have it at about 7% approaching the intersection. So that's another one of those issues on that Depot Street approach where people are sitting at a pretty angled condition while they're at the stop bar, and I'm sure there might be some concerns over the winter as well pertaining to that. But that grade difference is really going to come into play as we talk about some of these alternatives that we've explored. So I just wanted to set the stage there. We know operationally that during the AM and PM peak hours, so where you're seeing the most traffic kind of originating from the town or passing through the town, that's where you see some of the operational issues at the intersection. So namely that peak PM condition. We've certainly heard the anecdotal evidence of how far back vehicles can queue at that stop condition on Depot Street. Working with our Bureau of Traffic, we did do a review of the volumes out here, and 140 does see most of the traffic. Main Street, the southern leg, does put forward a pretty good amount of vehicles as well, but definitely less than what you experience on the 140 legs to the north and west of the intersection. So taking a look first at the all-way stop condition, that was one of the improvements proposed as part of that corridor improvement. I think we can make these PDFs available to you after the fact. I apologize for everyone who's attending online today that we don't have those beyond what we have on paper in front of you. But we do have a few extra copies too that we could leave behind. The all-way stop is, as the name implies, it's just proposing to put in stop bars and stop signs at the approaches that are currently uncontrolled. So where today you have all those vehicles stopping on Depot Street, while there's that through movement on New Hampshire 140 to the north and Main Street to the south, this is proposed to put a stop condition in place. You would trade off queuing then, from instead of just being all that queuing focused on Depot Street, you would then start to experience queuing that's not out there today on the Main Street, south and north legs. However, we think that we'd see an operational improvement as a result of that, rather than just the excessive queues there. It would be a bit more balanced. We also know from a safety standpoint that the always stop condition helps when it comes to issues of sight distance. So out there today where the Depot Street approach struggles maybe to get sight distance, adequate sight distance to the north and south of the intersection, and we look at always stop control, we would look for them to at least have sight distance to the adjacent stop bar, and they would be able to see that based off of where we're proposing the layout in that color plan. I guess something we haven't talked too much about would be the Nelson Court approach. It's sort of the informal fourth leg of this intersection, functions as a access to that business and maybe a couple residences. We have a couple, there's more conversation I guess to have around Nelson Court and how it can be incorporated into some of these alternatives. For the all-way stop, we were treating it as a fourth leg. It's already stop control today, and we set back the stop bar and stop sign on the Main Street South location so that it could accommodate movements coming in and out of Nelson Court, rather than seeing vehicles queue in front of that driveway and limit access. So from a right-of-way impact standpoint, we think this is an alternative that really doesn't propose much in way of right-of-way impacts. Technically, if we looked into doing some sidewalk improvements, there's a chance that a little bit of the earthwork associated with that could get closer to the right-of-way lines, but I guess the big thing we mean by no right-of-way impacts is it's not proposing any major permanent changes, no acquisitions of neighboring parcels, no easement needs, at least at our current stage. We haven't evaluated fully what this could include.
Hans, is the purple what would be affected?
So purple there, actually, and I apologize, normally when we go out with our color plans, we do have a legend that goes with this color, so let me back up and cover that real quick. These are pretty quick sketches, early sketches. Yellow is proposed roadway, so that's everywhere, curb line to the pavement. The purple that you're talking about there is actually the proposed sidewalk. So we know that there, south of the intersection, there was a Main Street improvement project that you guys undertook a couple of years back. We want to make sure that we can tie into that, maybe match the standard that you guys set, and we could also talk about some reconfiguration of those sidewalks in order to make sure that driveways are clearly delineated, ADA is accommodated, so that's concrete pit downs with detectable warning panels, and then also putting back crosswalks that are combined that you can continue to strike through the intersection. I guess other colors there, gray is just existing pavement, so any place where you're not seeing that bright yellow, that's kind of beyond the limits of the work. In orange would be any of our driveway matches, so the assumption is without any sort of grade changes, we could just tie into the driveways. We'll do a little drive apron that you might experience anytime the project goes through with an overlay paving. And then I guess from an existing condition standpoint, red are the buildings. You could probably guess that from the shapes alone. And then that darker green intends to convey the wooded areas, according to our survey. Our crews that went out there and kind of got the face of woods closest to the roadway. But obviously we printed this on an aerial. You can tell that there's a lot more of a wooded environment beyond what we've shown in color. Lastly, kind of to the top left of the page, that would be the Tioga River and that little bridge crossing that we talked about earlier.
And I'm sorry, what was the blue lines?
The blue lines, so you're talking like the kind of dashed lines?
Yeah.
That go around? So that's the right of way.
Okay.
So we did our review in-house, our folks down in the Bureau of Right of Way, and they determined what the right of way was out there today. So that's where I talked earlier about how Belmont's an older town. It's definitely got some tighter right of way. A lot of places in New Hampshire you see 66-foot wide right of way or 33 feet to either side of the center line. A lot of our, I'd say newer roadways, we would look for 50 feet on either side of the center line. We have a little bit less than that on most of the approaches here. So I guess the last thing I would say about the always stop control, we do refer to the manual and uniform traffic control devices, which is MUTCD, is how we often refer to it. That's our federal traffic guidelines for how we should be laying out our roadways from a traffic standpoint. So they do offer guidance on always stop control warrants, is how they refer to it, which just means based off of the data that we can collect at an intersection. So that's maybe it's the crash data, it's the traffic volumes, be it both vehicles or pedestrians or bicyclists. You kind of look at all that criteria based off the data we're able to collect, and we get recommendations from the MUTCD about whether it is prudent to look at a certain alternative. And so based off the guidance from the MUTCD and our own guidance in the state of New Hampshire, we do feel like an always stop would be an appropriate solution at this location based off the purpose and need of the project. So I guess at this point, before we move on from the always stop control, I'll open it up if there are any questions, or if you want to save questions to the end, that works for me too.
I'll wait till the end.
Yeah, we'll wait till the end.
To the end.
Mhm.
That's good. So step into our next plan. We've got signals, and then we'll also do the next thing over in the alternatives matrix. From a limit of impact standpoint, it's most likely to touch a lot of the same stuff that the always stop control would, and that kind of makes sense, right? Where instead of putting in traffic signs or the stop signs, we would be looking to put in signal mast arms in order to hang those signal heads over the intersection. Now, this graphic hasn't been updated since a more recent review with the Bureau of Traffic. One thing that they did note is that we would look to put mast arms on each of the corners as opposed to doubling them up on two of the corners, which is what's shown in the plan. So I apologize for not making those updates. But with those signal mast arms going into all four corners, similar to the always stop condition, it kind of runs into the same right would be needing to do some amount of foundation work in order to get those signal mast arms in place, and we could see some impacts during construction. We're also aware of the utilities out there, town utilities, as well as some public utilities that pass through in the form of power, water, sewer, all that kind of stuff. So once you start getting the foundations and driving those signal mast arms into the ground, there would be some big utility concerns. So things we would need to work through as we move the project to final design. The signals alternative was one of the other long-term proposals that came out of that New Hampshire 140 corridor study. Taking a look at the traffic volumes that we received from our Bureau of Traffic, they do not meet signal warrants, which is another one of those things that come out of that MUTCD, that Manual on Uniform Traffic Control Devices. So the position of our Bureau of Traffic, kind of by policy, would be we are not, we wouldn't propose a signal for this location based off those traffic volumes. Now, it does very nearly meet warrant 2 in our future years. That's looking out 20 years. We want to make sure that the projects that we've put in place will continue to function for an adequate length of time. So we do look out at projecting the traffic volumes by that 20-year window. So from the construction year and then ahead 20 years. It still doesn't quite meet in that future condition, and for those reasons, it's not an alternative that we are recommending at this time. I think then, recognizing that questions will be held to the end, we'll move on to the southbound offset right turn lane. Third option there. Jason mentioned already that the 10-year plan project and budget was kind of built off of a right turn concept, so that's heading southbound on New Hampshire 140 North or Main Street, and recognizing that a lot of the volume in that westbound direction on 140 is taking that right turn at that intersection. The thinking is if we can separate out the right turning traffic from the through traffic, that helps alleviate some of those sight distance concerns that cause indecision for drivers waiting at the stop bar on Depot Street. So we work with our safety section to talk a little bit about the concept of the offset right turn. The intent there is if you can further push the traffic away rather than just strike for a single additional right turn lane. That helps create that sight line that we're looking for the design speed. And I think it would make it a little bit more conspicuous to drivers waiting at that stop bar what the movements are, and it would allow them to make an educated decision about when to enter the intersection. However, it does not do anything to address the sight distance concerns as you look to the south on Main Street, which we recognize is one of the major sight distance issues out there today. You have to pull up pretty far beyond the stop bar and even onto the crosswalk location where it's currently striped in order to make sure that you can see vehicles heading northbound on Main Street. From a right-of-way impact standpoint, it makes enough sense that as soon as you start widening the roadway in a right-of-way controlled area, we would be looking at some sort of sliver impacts to those parcels on the west side of Main Street. So we've got shown there a new color, that lime green, and that's a representation of where we think our limits of impact would be. So as we push out the curb line, build back the new sidewalk, and then do a little bit of grading in order to match into the lawn or the abutting driveways, that's about as far back as we predict we would need to go in order to make this work. Now you'll notice it does put a little bit of the roadway outside of the right-of-way. It does put the sidewalk outside of the right-of-way compared to where it all is today. So those are some right-of-way changes that would be resulting from that. Operationally, we do some traffic modeling in-house to help get a sense of how this will improve the intersection. Our modeling shows an improvement as a result of this, but I would be concerned still with the sight distance not being addressed as you look in the southbound direction.
You couldn't move that stop bar though further up where you've got that island?
So I think it's a great question. Right now, we were kind of holding the crosswalk at its current location, but it is something that we've talked about internally more recently, is if we were comfortable maybe talking to the town about adjusting where that crossing is located, and we'd have to work with our Bureau of Traffic about that as well. We could maybe move that stop bar further forward and help deal with some of those sight distance issues, but that's a great comment.
So this one, you would only really be a loss of driveway and or front yardage on any physical buildings, correct?
The goal of this alternative was to, not require the need to take any houses. We recognize there's some parking on the frontage for that corner on the northwest parcel, so it's a business, it's a combined business and residence, right? But there's that lower access rate. The idea being that we recognize New Hampshire 140 sees those higher traffic volumes, it's perhaps more of the through movement. So what if we moved to make that the uncontrolled through condition, and then tie in Main Street as the T intersection is more of a minor road approach compared to what's out there today, where the western line of Depot Street acts as the minor road approach with its stop condition. We've looked at the volumes for what would be required to, from a turning lane standpoint on the main line. So as this shifts New Hampshire 140 to the northwest, we would be calling for a left turn lane in order to make sure that vehicles that are continuing south on Main Street today continue to have, a way to position themselves for that, while the majority right turning movement continues west on New Hampshire 140. This is a higher impact alternative. It's not something that I would say currently meets the budget for the project, but we do think operationally it works pretty well. You would not really experience any sort of queuing on the main line. You would, of course, be experiencing queuing on Main Street that you don't experience today with the introduction of that stop control. This also does have some right-of-way implications. I talked earlier about how the Tioga River sits down a little ways from the intersection itself, so we are not 100% sure that we can tie down without getting into the bridge area. We're pretty confident that it wouldn't require replacement of that bridge, but that became one of our controls, so we're trying to tie down quickly, looking at the layout of the roadway profile. But so the biggest, impact, and it's pretty obvious, I suppose, looking at the plan, would be that parcel in the northwest. So that's that combined residence and business. That is really where the road would be proposed to be shifted in order to make this layout work. And lastly, to talk a little bit about the roundabout concept. Jason mentioned that the town planner had also provided that layout. So you'll notice the layout that we have proposed here is very similar from a general location to that sketch that was provided. And I apologize for the colors there. That was my job to get those printouts, and I could have maybe used a better printer with some brighter colors on it. But we looked at it in-house. We wanted to make a couple adjustments in order to make sure it kind of fits our design practices. The DOT is becoming more and more of a proponent for roundabouts for many intersections. We recognize that they operate well. They do a good job of reducing the crash angle, so it can help with the crashes at a location, and then operationally it works quite well, where we have the three lanes, Depot Street, New Hampshire 140 North, and then Main Street to the south, that have somewhat similar traffic volumes depending on the time of day. However, what the planning sketch does not show is the profile, so the grade, the elevation of the roadway, and that's where we see maybe a larger issue with this proposal. On top of just the footprint of the paved area, we have to then chase the grade down Depot Street, that 7% difference in grade, and by the time you are trying to tie back into 140 to the west, you'll have gone past the bridge location, so we'll pull a bridge into the scope of the project, and you'll have incurred quite a few impacts to a lot of the parcels east of the bridge in order to make sure that that approach grade can fit the design speed.
With the amount of truck traffic that we have, because obviously we have a lot of materials that get moved through this intersection, and those types of trucks, as well as the tractor trailer trucks that are going through here, obviously east-west, that roundabout is sufficient enough and it works well. I mean, I know that there's a roundabout in Concord when you get down and take the back road and go to the hospital, and you see the roundabout has been beat up because it's not big enough to support people going around it in whatever vehicle they have. And this would be big enough to support those?
So this layout matches kind of our current standard, which is 135 feet in inscribed circular diameter.
Yeah.
I'm getting all the terms right there,
Yeah.
but it just pretty much means from outside curb line to outside curb line. The goal of this signal lane roundabout is to be large enough to accommodate those design vehicles, so that would be up to a WD62, which is a tractor trailer. If they take the approach wide and then use the center turn apron, that's where they can off-track that larger trailer. We've had great success, I would say, with this layout at other locations. The location you're referencing in Concord, that's within their city streets. They're a little bit more limited in the roundabout that they propose there. I'm pretty sure I know the roundabout you're talking about, and it's smaller than what we've got.
Oh, it definitely definitely has to be, it's smaller, but, and it has been beat up, and I think, you know, I'm looking at that and saying, but even the one in Meredith,
Yeah,
when
that's
you
beat
come
up.
off in Parade Road, that one in Meredith is beat up. And I get nervous only because of, you know, cars versus some of these big trucks, and, you know, it's scary. I find it a little unnerving sometimes going around them, but, that's all. And I know that, I know you, not UPS, but, yeah, UPS has, a facility over here on 140 now, and they're running the tractor trailers with a second trailer behind, but I don't think they come this way. They don't. They just go to 93, correct?
They go to the highway.
And they wouldn't come this way. They can't legally come this way? Is that correct?
You can't take tandems through here.
Okay, period.
And their tandems are shorter anyway, they're not full box.
I know they are, but you know,
But all those, and Yellow Freight's doing the same thing.
they're doing the same thing.
They're heading toward the highway.
All right. Yep, that's what I thought, but just,
Going down to distribution centers.
Yep. got it, okay.
I think I just wanted to add, I think the team did look at various sizes of roundabouts. This is kind of the department standard. It's got a significant impact.
Well, it most
There's
certainly does,
multiple
yeah.
acquisitions
Yeah.
with this.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
We did look at
Huge.
smaller sizes to see if we could get the idea, the intent of the town put forward.
Mhm.
But the smaller
Yeah.
circumference of the roundabout just isn't large enough. Like you said, there's a large number of trucks.
Huge
I wanna say it's
trucks.
11% of the traffic volumes through here, and so this would be a concern for us as well.
Yeah, yeah, I just, yeah, okay.
And what I wanted to add in is there are impacts not only to the 4 full acquisitions, but the bridge needs to be replaced.
Right.
That cost, the
Yeah.
4.5 is just the roadway, it does not include the bridge.
Mhm.
So again, it was more to walk through. We expected a question, you know, if we, and we wanted to kind of understand the town's desire and intent from what we had heard from the first meeting, and this just isn't reasonable or prudent for the location,
Yeah.
in our opinion.
What about our infrastructure that's under the existing intersection?
Yep, so that was actually something I'm realizing I glossed over for the last 3 alternatives that we discussed. I mentioned for the signals, the mast arms, those foundations would need to take those sort of utility impacts into consideration. But the southbound right turn lane would also need to do that. There's I believe there's a fire hydrant right on that corner.
We have water and sewer.
And water and
It's gonna
sewer.
be affected, or at least in tandem. If I might ask, gentleman that's here, Brian,
The state reached out, and you guys have a copy of all the plans, and I think you included them. The water line that runs up 140 at the intersection isn't crazy deep to my knowledge, it's like 5 or 6 feet.
Well, we've had a couple, I think a few years ago, we had a freeze out right across,
Yeah.
140.
So the elevation that you guys set that intersection to would be a little bit of a concern for us if you're gonna lower it. I mean, we may wanna explore replacing that line in tandem with you guys, I guess. That's another discussion.
But absolutely correct, we've collected, you know, verifications for all the different utilities that are through the aerial. There are the aerial utilities, and then there are ones that are underground, which tend to be more for the town of Belmont. The 3 last alternatives, I would say, would all require, you know, a lot of coordination and relocation of that infrastructure in order to make sure that it then is in line with the new roadway locations, or, you know, moved outside of the.
I just don't wanna see us put a road in there and dig it up in a year.
Yes. So those sort of utility, you know.
The in-ground utilities are gonna be an expensive repair, and I've looked at your estimate, cost estimates for this, with the signals, looks like $450,000. And looking at the land and the people that live there and the businesses that are gonna be affected, that's probably the way I'd lean to go, but I also wanna know what's gonna happen when we dig this up, and if we got a bad pipe, does that fall under your purvey, or do we need to pick that bill up by ourselves?
Great question. If there are utility impacts within the right of way and there's no permit, I'm assuming they would be there by sufferance. The community would be responsible for most of it. We do pay for the excavation and some of the backfill materials as part of that agreement. But it's a great question. Any private utilities or underground utilities would be a burden of by the.
We have to
by the
take
owner.
that we also have a budget, and we have to take that into consideration. If we're gonna rip it up, let's do it and do it now, and not, you're doing a 20-year fix here, let's make sure it lasts 20 years.
It's a great comment.
Yeah, that might be it, so I think at this point I'll hand it back over to Jason.
I think while it's fresh in everybody's mind, I think we'd love to take questions and comments and thoughts. Again, my hope out of this meeting was that we could narrow down the alternatives, and we didn't necessarily be, the signals they do not meet warrants, as Han said, they don't meet the warrants, even for the 20. This was, the signal was a long-term solution as part of the Lakes Region and community study. It doesn't mean we wouldn't think ahead, and if we felt that it was on the verge, like Hans was saying, that it could meet a warrant in the future, we could investigate putting conduit in to make sure that we had most of the infrastructure. But the signals does have a significant impact to the aerial utilities. There would be property impacts that we haven't solved. That's not where we're at this point, but it wouldn't be an alternative that we would like to take forward. The roundabout is a very significant impact. It does not meet budget. It doesn't seem reasonable. I did briefly discuss the cultural resources, the two abutting properties in the northwest quadrant and the southwest quadrant could have some historical significance to it. I'm not positive on that. That's something that we still need to do. If it was, the federal highway would have a concern in whether or not the alternatives were reasonable and prudent for, mostly for an acquisition. If we had an acquisition, we'd have to show that there was something else that was more reasonable and prudent in order to gain federal funding. So I'd love to be able to push away the roundabout. It kind of leaves us with the all-way stop, the southbound offset right turn, which improves some safety, and the realignment also may not be the most reasonable and prudent, but it might be addressing some of the issues that the town
That would be my choice. We already have a, four-way stop sign at the church, just up the road. It seems like every time I go through there, there's more glass on the road or pieces and parts. Has there been more accidents, Chief, lately? There,
No.
it just seems as if there's been, no?
There's always
Right.
near crashes there because people coming down the Killington roadside.
Yeah, yeah.
don't
It
stop.
doesn't matter. Even if you put a stop sign, signal in, doesn't mean they're gonna stop.
There is a signal there.
Well, I mean, no, but even here, I don't know.
It's worth noting, I think that northern location you're talking about is a three-way stop.
Is it,
Three-way.
yeah, that's right, it is three-way, that's right, because when you're going up, yeah, I can't. It changed back a while ago, yeah, you're right, you're right.
And I forgot to mention, I apologize, the estimated construction cost is what we call an order of magnitude. To make everything equal amongst the alternatives, we kind of looked at that limit of work, but it doesn't necessarily include, some of the utility costs that we might have. It doesn't necessarily include all our permits. It doesn't. So there's a few costs in here that are not included in that. So don't take that as the final cost or final estimate, but it's just to kind of give us to weight all of the alternatives against each other.
Well, obviously, if you start from page 1, you try this, then you can always go to page 2 and page 3, but,
I'm looking at this survey, per se, and behind what is our now existing lawnmower repair shop, which is right directly across from the intersection, right behind that, you'll see a drawing in black. That's an underground canal that goes from there and comes out over here where the blue starts down. So something's gotta be done with that, 'cause that's been there for 200 years.
Yeah, actually, I believe what you're referring to, there's an open channel, right?
Yes,
That's
yeah.
what's,
Well, it's open at the top and it's open at the bottom, but the middle of it is piped or somehow boxed to go under the property or right between the two property lines and come out down below. That's gonna be a big surprise when you go to dig that up, yeah, behind the old gas station, yep.
Ruth, Travis has a question.
All right. Travis?
Think you might be.
Thank you, guys. I just didn't know, are both the chiefs there, or the fire department chiefs aren't there?
Yeah, they're both here.
Okay, thank you. Did they answer your what they think the benefits or, pros and cons of a four-way stop would be there?
It's hard to say. I mean, there's a four-way stop that they've now initiated at 107 and 140 in Gilmanton. They had so many crashes there at one point, they've gone to a four-way stop. That has been working pretty efficiently, except for the ones that don't stop and just go right through it, because they're used to just going through it.
But they have good sight distance there also.
They have pretty good sight distance there. I'm not quite sure about the four-way stop, how that will actually work here. My concern would be is stopping the traffic as we're doing now on Depot Street with that 7% grade. You know, in the wintertime, I mean, winters are getting milder and milder, and DOT does an awesome job keeping that well salted and sandy. But I can recall years past, we've had multiple tractor trailers stuck on that hill, and this creates a nightmare at times. I like the idea of the right turn to some degree, but I'm concerned that the right turn lane wouldn't be sufficient for those longer trucks to make that turn efficiently with their trailing axles, not run over the sidewalk or whatever. I'd have to see that layout to make sure that they could make that sweep, because right now, a lot of your logging trucks that are hauling chips, as well as some of your tractor trailers, when they come down the road, depending on the tractor that's towing them, if it's an older tractor, so if it's an older tractor, they're bigger, they have to actually swing out across the Main Street center to make that turn so that trailing axle doesn't run over the sidewalk and take out the fire hydrant. So that would be my concern on the right turn lane. The four-way stop or three-way stop, my concern is the grade, the 7% grade.
Cause the hill is already a stop.
Right.
So are they making the grade farther out?
So the always stop control, as it's shown here, does not do anything with the grade, so it's not changing that condition from what's out there today. The limits of work shown there really would just be paving through the area in order to get that to the final condition.
Does anyone else have any questions? Yes.
Right, Cameron, my name's Dick. I have a quick question. It sounded like you said that that one of your departments or bureaus had ruled out signalizing the intersection. Did I misunderstand that?
There's not enough traffic for it, is what you're
Because
saying.
there's not enough traffic?
So I don't think they've officially given us that ruling, but historically, they use the MUTCD in order to determine where, I guess it's prudent, where it's recommended, so based off the traffic volumes that we have in the area.
But that's only one factor, as opposed to issues related to taking land by eminent domain in order to revise the angle of the roadway coming into that intersection, and a whole lot of other factors.
Yeah.
And it also sounds like making it a four-way stop is not necessarily going to address the real issues related to sight distance and the grade and all that that's going on. It almost sounds like the signalization is probably the most, when you look at all the factors, the most effective way of managing that intersection, despite the cost that might be involved with messing around with utilities, making adjustments in there and so on. It sounds like the other benefit of a signalized intersection is that it can be controlled such that during peak hours you have it operating in one way, one fashion, and then in off hours you can change the signalization so that traffic can move more readily through that. You can reduce the stop time and so on, or put in flashing yellow light. There's a number of things that you can do to control the traffic flow through that intersection if you have it signalized. can't do that with stop signs. And obviously, changing the alignment is gonna cause some significant costs, you know, and we don't know that even after all of that, that the value that we're going to gain is going to offset the overall cost. So that's just my thoughts about this.
So I'll take a stab, and I'm pretty, I might have Trent weigh in, because he kind of led some of that, early discussion with Bureau of Traffic. So the first thing, it doesn't meet warrants in with today's traffic numbers or in the design. So we wouldn't necessarily get, federal funding to support it, so we have to look for some additional funding if we were to put it. The department doesn't typically put in signals if they're not warranted. And again, we might make provisions to put in conduit for a future if the traffic changed significantly, that we could then redo the traffic study and change that. As far as changing the operations, it would affect the operations, but not necessarily in a positive way. One of I guess the value adds of the all-way stop condition is now everybody has to stop. The speeds are slower, there's direct eye contact with the drivers at each of the different legs. It's also safer from a pedestrian standpoint. If the signal is green, vehicles are gonna continue to move through that intersection, whether or not they're looking for the pedestrian or not. So I think there are some safety value adds that, which is why one of the reasons we support the all-way stop over the signal condition. Certainly signals work very well with different traffic and different geometric configurations of the intersection. So I don't wanna dismay that, just in this situation, we don't feel that it's the best option. And again, there's gonna be significant impacts to the aerial utilities, the mast arm locations for each of the parcels, and we'll probably have some additional widenings to specifically the northwest and the southwest parcels.
One of the other things I've noticed on Main Street is that people drive pretty fast down there. So, you know, when, that probably lends itself to the issues that we're dealing with now. And I was wondering if there might be some inclusion of traffic calming in some of your analysis. Not necessarily on Route 140, but it may be some traffic calming on Main Street to sort of manage the speed. You know, we talked about putting in stop signs, but managing the speed of the traffic on the Main Street section of the roadway.
And you're referring to Main Street on the northern side?
The southern side.
The southern side, okay.
Yeah, principally, the traffic comes fairly quickly at certain times of the day. And then on the northern side, you know, when they're going to take the right-hand turn, that might be another area where you might look at traffic calming approaches. You know, maybe, and I understand that one of the biggest problems is the movement of large vehicles and trucks through that area to be able to make the turn. So, you know, there's a balance there that's involved in taking that kind of approach. You know, what do we do, you know, with the roadway widths, and what do we do with the surfacing in order to manage that kind of issue? Okay, good.
Great comment.
Two
And,
comments.
you know,
What?
last year, the lights at 106 and 140 have changed. The lights on top of Prescott Hill have changed, and they're controlled by the state, signal division, because now they use a caution arrow that we never used to use. The light will go to green and go to red, but the caution arrow is a red, but there's a caution arrow below, so if there's nobody there, you can make a turn. So I don't know who came up with that idea, but it wasn't us. It wasn't the town that said change it, but they're using that yellow caution light now more than they ever have, for especially right and left-hand turns. Going south at the end of our, by the church, and it's going north. And it's your gamble if they're coming down the road. Because and same at the top of 106, they do the same thing. They're on a timer and they come on, that caution light comes on with a red light.
Yeah, that change would have been done by Bureau of Traffic.
I understand
and
that, but
I
that's,
think two things is, first off, the traffic light at Plummer Hill and 106. The state did not approve, all right? They would not put it in. So that was actually funded by local businesses.
Yes, we did.
We all put money in to get that traffic light in, and I'm sure the state's happy now with all the homes and all the growth that's taken place on Prescott Hill, okay? Second off, where are you sitting for this traffic count for the Main Street and 140? Are you sitting locally when you're doing the traffic count, or are you sitting further back on 140, basically on the Tilton side of Jamestown and South Road and Dearborn Street and Johnson Street, who are all getting traffic now because people are trying to avoid this intersection? If you have someone sitting on the main street doing a traffic count, it's not a proper traffic count because people are avoiding. I mean, there's no through trucking. Is there no through trucking on Jamestown?
Yes.
And there's no through trucking on South Road.
But they don't
And you
obey
can
it.
you can be assured that there is through trucking on those roads, okay? No different than Dearborn Street, Johnson Street. People are finding other ways, okay? Let's just go down 106 a ways. Let's go to the Loudon Shaker Road intersection, okay? People are coming Shaker Road to go to Tilton, to go to Northfield, to avoid, okay, this intersection, all right? So if the traffic counts are, in my mind, if they're taking place, say in the main street, it's not an accurate traffic count because people are terrorizing all the back roads, all right? And I mean terrorizing. I mean Jamestown Road, Dearborn Street now. If you take Dearborn Street, I can't imagine how fast some of the cars are. I'm amazed they even stop at the bottom of the hill, okay? And that would be my concern, is that we know that the traffic is doing all these secondary roads. I happened to go to Laconia yesterday morning and was coming south on 106, and the traffic here on 106 and 140 were backed up beyond the park and ride. Well, what I witnessed, and I kind of watched, is what I call North Main Street, the little, okay, Massachusetts cars are whipping down through because it is quicker to take 106 out 140 to get on 93 now than it is Route 3 because that's so congested. So I'm seeing that, and that's throwing what I consider additional traffic onto our roads, going too fast, coming to the same intersection that we're discussing right now, you know, just as an observation. But it'd be interesting to know what the true traffic count is in my mind on 140 before it starts hitting all these roads because they're trying to avoid this intersection.
25 years ago, a man named Stephen Purnell Associates out of Concord, was hired by the planning board to do a road study for the town of Belmont. And he said our biggest concern was gonna be east-west traffic through the town. Back roads, I live on off 106 on a side road, and it was pretty well beat up. Our highway department did a great job and paved it. Now it's a speedway.
Like so many roads.
And then that east-west traffic is really, and they find them, you know, they just cut off and find it.
It's certainly a comment that we hear on a lot of projects, that with
Sure.
Waze and Google Maps, that people find ways around those sensitive intersections.
Well, I was gonna ask you this one, if you're gonna fix this, you're gonna put a bridge over Franklin and Tilton so they can get there faster?
That one's outside the budget.
Well, they started this 25 years ago out toward Andover. They made a turnpike out of a two-lane road that goes nowhere. I mean, you get to Franklin, you stop. You get to Andover, you stop unless you get on 89. But that was their big hope, to get it started of an east-west highway, and somebody sold the idea and they put it all in. It goes, I mean, yeah, the road's there. And you could go, it's wide, the right-of-way's wide enough to have 4 lanes, but where's it going? Nowhere.
I have a question.
Do you have an updated traffic count as of recently now on 140? Years ago, it was 8,000 vehicles a day, back when we were looking at it 20 years ago, so. I'm just curious, if you said you had a model.
We did collect traffic for this project,
I realize she's right.
we can certainly
It would
look
have to
into
be
it.
done back before Jamestown Road to get the accurate flow from Route 3.
Yeah, I mean, so our Bureau of Traffic went out as part of this project getting started in-house, and they did do a traffic count at the intersection location, so, to your point, it's not necessarily gonna reflect where vehicles are going. Traffic, tracking that sort of origin destination would be really difficult, you know, a vehicle by vehicle basis, it's hard to separate what is a local commuter versus what is a cut-through. So unfortunately, we can only really deal with the data that we have in front of us, but that was done for this location. We also do have some permanent count stations around the state, so we could look elsewhere along New Hampshire 140 and 106, and we could try and compare. You know, does it seem like the volume is disproportionately higher west of this project location compared to what we counted at the intersection itself? And that might indicate that you see some of those vehicles, you know, deviating on the side roads, but it is hard to say definitively if that's what's going on.
Well, we do know when the truck traffic comes through, it's not supposed to be coming through. And it should be coming to the intersection, but it is not. They're hitting Jamestown, they're hitting South Road, they're going up Dearborn Street, whatever the case may be. So it is inaccurate because there's no through truck. That's just a sign. Doesn't work. No. I'm sorry, go ahead, Sharon, had a question.
So, I'm sorry, I'm kind of new to this stuff, so bear with me. So, what I hear you saying is that option 2, 4, and 5, according to you guys, don't really fit our needs. So, we kind of like 1 and 3, right, are the ones that are the most favorable. So I'm going to tell you my experience with this intersection, and I've lived in Belmont my whole life. I actually worked as a delivery in this town. I've had kids that have gone to all 3 schools. My hardest part is coming from this way, down Main Street to that intersection and taking a left onto 140. Because the people at the end of Depot Street don't have the line of sight. They pull up into the intersection to you to see. And technically, if there's no one coming the other way, I don't have to stop, except I always have to stop and let the person in that intersection go, and then race to get around the corner before the person behind them comes up to the stop sign. And neither one of these fixes that problem. Then we have the schools and the school buses running, and that's the way the traffic comes. The school buses, the people picking their kids up, high schools, and they do this twice a day. The high school buses come down, they go to the middle school, they go back out. So it's a lot of heavy traffic. Our police department, if that gets backed up because of the school buses and our police department has to go somewhere in a hurry, then they've got this whole congested thing, and neither one of these address that issue.
Well, and the other issue is if that person has pulled up into that beyond the stop bar, the school bus can't go left. Okay, or anyone else. It could be a delivery truck from the school or whatever. They can't go left. They have to let the person go before they can go left, because it's just not enough room. You know, there's not enough turn.
So a couple things, point of clarification. Alternatives 2, the signal and the single lane roundabout, are the 2 that we would recommend dismissing out of this meeting. 1, 3, and 4, the realignment, I think from an operation standpoint, weigh in your trends, or Dan and Hans, I believe that the operations, the best was the realignment. There. So the best operate, again, we're basically the through movement for this intersection is 140 east and west. And that's what Trent and the team found early on and then they started looking at ways to solve kind of the intersection site distance and the operations. So I think 4, the realignment option is still on the table. It just has a higher cost, it's beyond the budget.
So that puts us in the 20-year plan.
You know, part of this,
Which
right?
doesn't fix our problem. Well, so
We haven't
this,
necessarily got there yet, and then I just wanted to say, like, from an operation, the thing is, it comes with significant cost to the relocation of the business and residents for that specific location. The all-way stop, I
So what happens at a four-way stop sign and the middle school gets out and at 2:35 in the afternoon, there's 9 buses lined up on Main Street to go in various places and they all have to stop? And there's an accident somewhere and the police officers who are at the police department have to get in their cars and go somewhere. How do you divert all of that traffic in that intersection when they're all stopped to get the police through or to get the fire department if they've gotta come down?
Hopefully one of the bus drivers will let them go around them and then, I guess, blue lights and siren.
But I don't,
That's
Yeah.
an answer.
but
No.
because it's sidewalks, how do they move out of the way? That's,
Well, I think in either case, we're not changing the existing pavement width in all of them. There might be slightly more pavement width with the realignment option, but I don't think we're changing, you can correct me if I'm wrong, I think essentially the narrowest width would be, on Main Street at the specific intersection. And then I'd have to defer to the incident management response for the chief. And the town, that's not something I can weigh into. But certainly, as far as operations and without that incident, would see that we've, as far as the operations go, we've kind of ranked them as the realignment, the always stop, and the stop and offset that turn in that order, from an operations standpoint.
cause just one more question, and the realignment map, this black right there, is that a stop sign, the black line right here?
That is correct.
But these don't have it, they have free flow of traffic, but this one has to stop.
That is correct.
Okay. Thank you.
And again, so the process that we're in, we're at kind of in the end phase of planning, right? This is where we wanna get your input. It may not work for the community, any of the options. We do feel that, we've got some reasonable options here that we can take forward to the community, but we'd like to have an open forum, public informational, and kind of weigh that in. But ultimately.
The problem is, no different than when the bypass was proposed, okay? And, which is unfortunate, we wouldn't have to be sitting here having this conversation right now, okay? That would have solved a lot of issues. But if you come back, you do a public, okay, you wanna get public input, and you get negativity on everything, all right? Then unfortunately, all the work that we've done, you're gonna go away mad because, they don't want anything, to hell with them, all right? And then we're right at square one, okay? Or, say the public comes back and says, we want the right turn lane, all right? Which isn't, it's better than nothing. Oh, well, so isn't the always stop sign, I guess, is better than nothing. I guess my question to you is if the public comes back and nobody can come to a conclusion and everybody's at everybody's throat, which seems to be the way of the world right now, are you going to do nothing and we're just gonna live with what we have?
So I'll turn this, slightly.
Whatever,
We would like to see an improvement, right? Like, there's value. The community had interest in putting a project into the 10-year plan. It went through the process for advocating for the project.
we've been patient.
Been very patient, working through Lakes Region to get this project specifically. The always stop has interest from our highway design safety section as far as integrating it into this always stop. There's several intersections around the state that they would like to continue to study. If this were to go always stop, the safety section would like to include that within the safety to continue. There would be, the operations and the safety assessment over a period of time. I don't know what that is, whether it's 5 years or 10 years, to kind of continue to look to see if this can, if that condition solved.
And that was gonna be my next question. If we go with the always stop, because that's what you people want us to do. I sometimes think you want us to do this because it's the cheaper of everything, obviously. And Belmont, for whatever reason, just continually gets overlooked, all right, when it comes to this. When the racetrack went in, we deal with that traffic, but nobody looked at this, just deal with it, all right? So if we go with the always stop and it doesn't work, then what we do, send another letter and we'll get on the next 10-year plan or whatever. You know, I get panicky that if we, just do it, okay, and it doesn't work, oh well, that was our fix, live with it, okay?
No, I will certainly get more details. The study that safety section is doing is kind of in infancy, and they're trying to kind of come up with what is the appropriate scope. So next time that we come to the community, I'll have a better answer for you. But I think of the different, you know, the minimalist approach here, that is a reasonable and probably the most prudent, especially if we have that mechanism in place with the safety section to kind of continue to watch it. If, you know, to go back to, if there's no agreement and, you know, generally the community doesn't want to see a major impact, we could no-build this, which essentially says, no, we've kind of gone through the different intersection alternatives, we understood what the impacts are, and we can write up our NEPA document such that, you know, the no-build is the best case scenario. I'm not suggesting that it is, but what I'm suggesting is that, yes, that is an option. I don't want to say no, it's not, and we'll continue to study it, because we do have to use our resources appropriately as far as what we're doing. I think the team has done a fantastic job of identifying some different things here. I think we've got three, I just want to clarify, we've got three solutions here that solve those major issues. It came into the 10-year plan as a traffic issue, and certainly as the team has identified, we've got two that kind of raise the top 3 alignment and all-way stop that can kind of do that. You know, I think if I had more information on what our safety section is thinking about for an all-way stop study, I think that might alleviate some of the anxiety there, but certainly respect that opinion, and, but we're.
You know, when I'm looking through, I'm thinking flow, you know, and how's it gonna work? You know, how's it, okay? And I'll be honest with you, number 3 would be my choice, all right? But that's only me looking at it right now and not knowing everything. Because when I'm looking at that, I'm thinking everybody coming from 106, trying to get to 93, can flow right through, all right? They're gone, they don't have to stop, they don't have to do anything, all right? Everything coming from south, north, I don't have an issue stopping there by any means. Most of the time you stop anyways, because it's a guessing game as to who's going where, but, you know. But again,
Is this one, number 3, the original concept, the 10-year plan concept,
Essentially
number 3?
essentially number 3.
yeah,
We've improved it from a safety perspective, to kind of some of the questions that you brought up earlier about
Yeah.
intersection site distance, but yes.
So it looks like you might still have a sight distance issue for someone who's stopped here to go, or going straight, and then you have someone coming, doing that right-hand turn to come to Tilton, so you may have issues with people not realizing maybe there's that second car turning, and then now they're turning, I don't know, it could also be another.
well, when you
If
look
we
at
have
this
the same
one,
issue
right,
that was expressed earlier about now that if you wanna make the left, you know, that is when you're guessing as far as.
yeah,
how
no matter
far
what,
it's
you're
Take
gonna
Dearborn
get.
Street.
And kind of where Nelson Court is, that's really not a stop, I mean, that's an exit out of, yes, there's a few homes there, but, that's just a convenience store parking lot, really, that does have a connection. I mean, would you ever consider making Nelson not go through that and make them, cause doesn't Nelson connect to,
No, it's not, connects to nothing,
Doesn't
does
go
it?
through the other.
No, it doesn't go
the
through,
other way?
no.
So they have
They
a
shut
choice.
that off.
They used to.
Right?
Oh, they shut it off.
So could I can make one point, because the Selectman Camp is concerned on the buses backing up on Main Street, the police not getting out. The way I saw your 3-way stop plan, you actually stopped the traffic right at the front of the town hall, so that this street would be still open for the police, correct? The 3-way stop, I don't have that in front of me, I'm just looking at one with a stop sign. This is the 6-foot offset right turn lane.
No, don't you would stop in front of,
3-way stop coming up from South Main Street, you actually stop the traffic.
no, you're stopping in front of the store, Kevin, I think. Right there near Nelson,
Oh, okay.
yeah,
Cars missing.
wrong building.
But as far, yeah, I agree with Chairman Mooney as
No,
far as.
sweep. He's looking, there's a 6-foot offset.
There
so I thought it was that further.
It would be the same intersection control as today.
That's the,
But Mrs. Campy's point, to go back to her point, was on the corner coming on to Main Street, if you wanna take a right, it is impossible. And then not a lot of trucks that go that way now, but they do still have to go down there to do deliveries, come into this building, and they cannot make that corner without going on basically the parking on the other side of the street. So that corner's always gonna remain a problem, it stays the way that is. And I think the turn lane, the right-hand turn lane, heading towards Tilton is the absolute best solution.
So you're saying number 3? It's number 3 on the list, I guess.
Yeah.
1, 2. The southbound offset right turn lane.
Number 3, yeah.
Well, and when I was looking at that plan, I'm thinking that stop bar off in Depot Street could be brought further this way. Which, I don't know. It's
gonna be an expensive one, because you're gonna acquire some property.
yeah. Well, no, it's right away. Well,
And you're gonna
yeah,
take.
yeah,
you're
a little
gonna
bit.
cut- You're gonna
Yeah.
take their front yard out,
yeah.
beauty shop.
No matter what we do, we're upset somebody.
It just would appear to be a longer-term solution for what's coming, because I can say the difference from 20 years ago, it's changed a lot. So what's it gonna do another 10?
Yeah.
Not gonna get better.
Well, that was kind of why I asked the question 1, 2, and 3, because I can see us getting, as things change, because as we saw on 106 and Plummer Hill and Mile Hill, wow, that has changed. And it, but the state didn't want the lights, so we kind of had the option to purchase them. And thank heavens, because it's just grown up so much, and this town is growing, and everybody else around is growing, so, and it's coming here, or seems to be coming through here, so, yeah. I mean, I'm done. Great, I mean,
And you've done a great job.
yeah, I can't, that's exactly right.
Flowers, good idea.
Good ideas, good alternatives, and, plan the public. I mean, that's, typically, I think usually when we plan that, it ends up being at the high school. I think that was in years past, and bigger area or whatever, yeah.
That's what you'd recommend?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. I mean, we can help coordinate that, that's for sure, so,
My thought is to show the public everything, because we've done the work, and I think somebody's gonna ask the questions, so we might as well put it up in front. Even though that we went to the signal and the single lane roundabout, those are, two that we wouldn't, but I still think there's value in everybody understanding why, we don't see those as reasonable alternatives moving forward. Is there, any other thoughts leading into a public informational meeting that you would suggest or recommend, or something here that didn't
Yeah.
connect with the community's vision?
No, not the community vision, but you might bring a flak jacket.
Or maybe I would just suggest that these numbers are just, like you said, purely construction and, if they do not account for the acquisitions, which I would assume would be, a significant amount, and also if you're doing that roundabout, which obviously sounds like we may lean away from the roundabout, but what does that cost for that bridge too? So your 4.5 was probably a bit understated.
Yeah.
And even the realignment, and if there is any acquisition for, basically 3 and 4, I know you don't obviously have a solid number, but maybe, adding.
A little bit
your
more,
figure of- it's estimated that the acquisition would be roughly X or this, Even if those people would have to agree, obviously, right?
Correct.
And
Right.
you wouldn't be in a situation with eminent domain, right, with that one house, if you did number 4, the corner house? Or how does that work?
So that's a great question. So the way the process is, from here, we would get some consensus on the preferred alternative, and then we'd go to the state public hearing, or through the state public hearing process. We prefer not to do eminent domain. That is, usually the bar that our bureau right away sets for us. show the hearing impacts in the event that we needed to go, but our Bureau right away would like to go through negotiations and have an agreement before.
Who knows, maybe, I mean, I don't know who owns that property, who knows, maybe they're ready to just,
That is true, until we go to the
You know?
public, we won't know.
yeah.
But that is something that we would go into our right-of-way budget. That would be the appraisals, the acquisition for whatever right we need, whether it's just construction or it's a full fee simple to acquire the right-of-way. That would be part of our right-of-way budget,
Is
not
it-
included in the construction cost.
Yeah, I would just suggest maybe adding those, and then, I mean, do you see it as a pro or con for the town? I mean, if you went with number 4, I mean, that's obviously a significant tax loss as well to the town of Belmont, losing 4 properties. And do you outweigh, the tax loss and the impact to the community, losing a business and, displacing, they're not just one singular homes, there, I don't know how many apartments or, any other place, 4 or 5, I think, plus business that's been well established, and, 3 homes plus the apartment building.
That's a fantastic question. That's not something that we weigh into the preliminary. Obviously, if there was the relocation of a business or the loss of business or loss of parking, that would go into the right-of-way discussion. But, for me to come here and for the team to kind of brainstorm the solutions that's important for the community to kind of weigh in that public involvement piece. So between today and the next meeting we have, that would be an important consideration for the community as a whole to kind of think about that and to see
Right.
if that is something that we want to raise as far as raising the criteria in how we select the third.
With number 3, sorry, just take your question. So you're definitely, with 4. So 4, you would definitely take that entire house on the corner, and next to that is another house. So it looks like you wouldn't be touching the house, but you would be significantly taking out their entire driveway and front yard. So would that just be, it's like that 3-square house there. Now, is that something where you're taking, like, buying part of their lands? Say you needed I'm just gonna throw an easy figure, half an acre to make that work. Do you go to the homeowner and say, hey, we need to buy half an acre from you, or do you just take it through the right-of-way process?
Both. We would take it through the right-of-way process. We'd identify what the right-of-way that we would need for the roadway. So that would include something on the backside of the sidewalk. We'd also probably have, depending on how steep the slope was, we might have a permanent slope easement, but most likely we'd also have a construction easement needed on the parcel to construct the driveway and then whatever slope impacts that we have. So we take it through the right-of-way process, and then from there, we'd show what the impacts would be. We'd identify what those specific easements or acquisition would involve, and then during our final design, we resolve what the impacts are. We provide those impacts in a plan to our Bureau right-of-way, and then they'd have the appraisal process, which they'd understand what the value of that loss would be, and then they would have also the acquisition process where they would negotiate with the property owner at that time.
And if it was a situation where you would just have to either move their driveway back back or to the side, I assume that's something you'd work with them as
Correct.
part of the process, not just like, well, here you go, fix it yourself.
That's
You would work
correct.
with them.
Yeah, that's correct. We would make sure that we provide access to all private property during construction as well.
Awesome. Does anybody have any other questions?
I thought Brian did.
Right.
I think Alicia actually asked the same one as me.
Okay.
Awesome. Okay,
Wonderful. I can't thank you enough for allowing us time to present the alternatives and hear your input, so I will
It's
take
an-
your recommendations
it's-
for the meeting and we'll be prepared.
we need to do something. Something needs to happen there, no ifs and or buts. I mean, it's been a long haul. We've had a lot of meetings, a lot of political people here looking at it. We've continued to send letters for the last 8 or 9 years, and I think we've been patient, and Belmont deserves something to be happen with that intersection. Okay.
And you'll be able to send me the PDF of all this so we can put it on our website.
Awesome. appreciate it. All right, thank you.
We do have a non-public after.
We do have an, and I don't,
Quickly.
all right.
Mark,
Or should we check some of the-
I have a question.
Thank you very much, we really appreciate it.
I just had an emergency